did the mainframe portfolio management within Fujitsu for the ES2000 systems, and also the mainframe EPS Enterprise Platform Services Academy in EMEA. And through my different initiatives where I'm supporting in or where I'm involved in the past years, I have to say it's very great that we have this space here, this time to give such important or such great a room to speak and to exchange know-how, to exchange experiences. Yesterday I had a session, a breakout session here, and the main point within was the challenge of creating and building healthy ecosystem. And what is in a ecosystem for today? There is such a great variety. It's such diverse initiatives, activities, possibilities, chances, and also there's a huge place always to think what we are doing with all the possibilities, even they are infinite. Looking at the ecosystem, we have to look at our partners, and we have to look at our customers, and we have to fit portfolio elements which are fitting and addressing the customer needs of today and the market trends. And one of the great and brilliant market trend is artificial intelligence. And some years ago, when we started, for example, to discuss and to speak about digital worlds, when I look back, it's amazing what's happened until today in such a fast way. And if we have a look deeper, what does it mean within our private society, within our businesses? It's across all. You can find the topics about AI. And sometime I think myself, I'm now in an age, have my children are already adults and in own businesses on their way. And very often I think, how will we create the future today, and how we will be carefully creating the things to be ready for the future and also to save this earth. And I don't want to sound etheric, but it's really a point what is inside my thoughts to think what can be in the future if we create today, and what will be for our children, what will be at this world with AI. If I have a look, for example, some years ago I was with a friend together, and he has one of the first Fitbits. Yes, and he is a worker every day in the nature. That means in his daily business he is always in movement. And at the end, I was spending with him one day in his business, and at the end I said, oh, it's very interesting. You have to have muscles. You are always in movement across the day. And at the end of the day, his Fitbit told him, you was not enough in your movements. You have to make about 7 kilometers for today. You have to run. Not enough steps. And when he said it, he laughed, okay, we made a joke with it. But what was interesting was that he said to me, Feli, we have to stop. I will go and take my sport press, and I will make some movements in addition for today, because my Fitbit told me I have to move more. It's not enough for today. 10,000 steps we should take to keep our health, our body in healthy. I thought, he's crazy. I told it to him. He did it. He made it. He was running. After that, we was going to have our dinner at night, and I asked him, why you made what this watch is saying to you. I couldn't understand it. But he answered me, I will not challenge this watch. Yes, he has a completely opposite perspective. He saw it as a challenge. Yes, not that this watch taught him what he has to do, but what is with people who don't take it as a challenge? What is with the people who make what this watch is saying? And this is one perspective where I thought, how can this be? And for today, we are in the position to use our smart heads to decide and to say, no, this way I will do. Even you, Alexa or Siri, or what's your name, Sophia, or some other names, if you say it's not right what I'm doing, I will have the control and I will make my own decision. This is one aspect. But I would like to give you another example, what's coming in my mind, what I had, and where you could say, okay, she was blonde, yes, she was not experienced enough, maybe. Some years ago, I was driving with a colleague in my car, and we put on the navigation the direction, and we had to drive about 400 kilometers, and we had a date to meet there. And we drove, and we spoke, and we discussed driving by car. My navigation, of course, showed me the direction, yes, normally, and the navigator also spoke with me and told me, you have to take now this direction, but we were so in our emotional direction that I drove. We both didn't felt and realized that we took the wrong way or another way. Of course, the navigation was flexible enough to use another, or to create another way. Finally, normally we would drive 4 hours, and we planned to drive 4 hours. But we, in total, our trip was a little bit longer. We arrived after 7 hours. We
was a good
couldn't
conversation.
meet our It was amazing, but it was so long time what we had already after us. It was too late to go back and to take another way. What I would like to give you these examples is, there are so simple things what we alive every day, and in what way we can be manipulated, and in what way it's not possible, because we have our own thoughts or thinking or doing. But what's always necessary from my point of view today is we should always keep our own thoughts ready to decide, ready to know what we want, and also to keep the empowerment to decide. Even the main people are going like the Lemminger in the same direction, and if we feel this direction might be not the better way for the whole human being or for the whole society, to keep and remain in the lead, to decide and to say, no, please, we should take this way because maybe it's shorter, or maybe it's better for all of us. This is one thing, but it's coming in my mind thinking about AI. And it's all about leadership as well. And if I think about leadership, this is something, okay, we can take and can say leadership is a top priority of every CEO and CTO and manager. You're right, we are right. But see, leadership, good leadership, has to do with everyone himself or herself. That means to decide and to be able to decide which direction we will take, it's necessary to take the lead and to say, I will be self-empowered to be able to decide. And this has to do with education, from my point of view. Therefore, I decided, for example, to support in the past 10 years a lot of initiatives with partners, with customers, with universities. I'm involved in much projects. For example, I'm the chairperson within the Bitkom gremium of education and profession. Here I'm involved in the activities how to bring women more in the technical fields, women in the ICT. And last but not least, before starting with this session, I would like to give you a third example from my experience in the past. When I was young, or younger, I had a dream, and my dream was I would like to work for people, to help them to keep healthy. I was impressed from medicine and from the white lady, which was our home doctor. Yes, I would like to be a doctor in my life. That means I had the wish to study medicine. But I come from East Germany, and with the background of my family history, it was not possible to get this study. And instead of that, I have in the final stage, I have got such became only one opportunity or possibility. And this possibility was, take it or leave it. You can study technical facilities at the Technical University in Dresden. When I heard it, I felt I have to leave the room or to go under the bottom and not to decide. I didn't want to decide. Thanks to my mom and to my father, they gave me the inspiration and said, do it, just do it. Even we don't know how you will do it, but we will support you. We will give you all the power and empowerment to be able to make it successful. Okay, I jumped in this field and I did it. And later on, I did so much other things. I learned about medical. I educated myself in psychology. I jumped into marketing, into communication things, into business management and strategic work with partners worldwide, such as, for example, with Microsoft. And looking back, I can say what I think it's very important to build and create the mix of theoretical things and practical, to take the chances which will be with AI. And this is possible for men, of course, because the men, they showed us all the time that it's possible, but this is also possible for women. And this is the point. It's not a question who will make it, it's the question how we will make it. And if we make it with a mix of all of our potentials, with all of our power, we will be powerful and we will be successful, using all the things that we have inside. And this is the inspiration I would like to give you from my heart, speaking for Fujitsu. Fujitsu is a company worldwide acting. Fujitsu is the Japanese leading ICT company. And maybe some of you don't know it, but Fujitsu was founded in 1935. And do you know which was the basis of the companies which were the basis founders founding Fujitsu?
Jimensu Group from Siemens?
Yes.
And Furukawa Group from Tokyo?
Yes, that's right. This was two electronical, technical communication focused companies, and they merged together, and it's so long time ago. And Fujitsu Group holds today 78,000 patents in the ICT sector. And this is something very interesting. 78,000 patents. This means it's a company knowing about experiences, knowing about how to create future, and knowing about working together, because only as one in looking in a channel and only running in a channel, a company would not be able to be so successful. And that's it, what I would like to give to you. Our vision is human-centric innovation to create human-centric society, and therefore thank you for being able to welcome you here in the name of Fujitsu, in the name of our women empowerment of Victoria, of Claudia, and Katharina Trappentreer is not here today, but these ladies organized it, initiated to invite very interesting speakers from different fields, and so that we have a possibility to hear, to feel, to think, and to discuss, and for all to get connected, because this will be the success for tomorrow. And from that point, thank you, and I would like to give you the word. Okay?
So hello, also again, welcome from my side. I'm happy that you are all here and we have the topic of AI actually. And welcome to the panel discussion, how to keep emotional intelligence in times of AI. I think, like Felicitas already has told us, it's a really important topic because it's already influencing us now, but it will also influencing us in the future, and that is a really great topic. My name is Victoria Behrens and I will leading this panel discussion. But of course, we have here really great panelists, so let me introduce you to the panelists. So our first panelist is Dr. Wolfgang Gröniger. He is not only an author or ambassador for equality, he is also a contributor for digitalization transformation from the Bundesverband Digitale Wirtschaft. Welcome here. Then we have our first lady here from Siemens, Dr. Ariane Suter. She works in the field of research and development for digitalization and automatization, as well for information integration and business intelligence. Welcome, Ariane. Then we have from Devalandu, Albert Stefani. He is the CEO of Devalandu, and he helps companies to leverage AI. And then, last but not least, from Fujitsu, our lovely Dr. Julie Wagner. She is senior UX researcher and one of our brilliant distinguished engineers. So welcome, thanks for coming. So let me start with the first question. So what is your definition actually of emotional intelligence? So maybe, Ariane, do you want to start?
Well, emotional intelligence, I think the question was also what is AI? Maybe this is the part I can talk more competently about. So artificial intelligence, what is it really? And I guess there could be many definitions to that. So you could come from technologies, you could say it's about machine learning, it's about all the technical stuff. But what I like as a definition for artificial intelligence is to say, okay, for me, artificial intelligence, if it solves a task that normally, if a human would have to solve this task, would require intelligence. So we have it in an abstract way to say, okay, the artificial intelligence is where the technology comes close to what would require a human to have its own intelligence in it. And so I guess, yeah, artificial intelligence in that sense is quite broad. Still, for me, it's not like that it's a part of emotional intelligence. So this is something different then. Probably I don't have such a clear definition for that, so maybe somebody else would like to add up on emotional intelligence, because I think this is something that is much more related to humans and not yet in what I see as the major AI applications.
Yes. Wolfgang, do you want to add something?
Yeah, if I may cut in here, AI is unlike human intelligence, it's very different, right? So a human being can easily differentiate between, let's say, a cat and a dog, or between a woman and a man. At least, like, I live in Berlin, sometimes it's not so easy, but usually, yeah, you can easily differentiate between a dog and a cat, and a woman and a man, and a horse and a human being. You can easily open a door, you can empty your trash can. These are things like an AI needs to be trained for, and it's actually quite hard to train an AI to empty a trash can or fold a blanket, which is an easy task for humans. And even a baby can open a door if it's big enough or tall enough, right? And even if an AI is trained with lots of data to recognize a cat in an image, the AI still has not a concept of what a dog or a cat actually is. It has an understanding of the meaning of a cat. It just sees, hey, here there are like so and so many pixels of that and that color, that must be a cat. But it doesn't understand what a cat is. For instance, there's a professor in Berlin from the Technical University, Professor Müller, and he trained an algorithm to detect horses. But then he found out that his data is flawed. Why? Because the images of the horses often showed a little tagline saying, photography, Dr. Müller, horses. So the AI always looked just for the little tagline because it found out, okay, if there's like this tagline saying Pferde, like horses, it must be a horse, without even like seeing that there is a horse in it. It's just if there's a tagline, it must be a horse. And so we must always be aware of that AI is unlike a human intelligence. It's very different from that. And I would agree with your definition. An AI is maybe the capacity of a system or a machine to solve complex problems. But it's very different from a human intelligence. For a human, it's very easy to open a door.
Still, I mean, the AI
Machines
gets
not.
eventually superior to humans in that specific task. If you use the right data, what you just mentioned is of course one problem. So if you provide the wrong learning material to the AI, then it will learn in a way that eventually comes to outcomes that are not foreseen and not wanted. But if you have good training material for an AI algorithm, then for instance, image recognition, this is something where AI easily becomes much superior to humans. Much superior.
Thank
Sorry,
you.
if I may just add one more sentence, sorry. And we're talking about domain-specific AIs, right? It's not a general AI, like what we learn from Hollywood or from many books and movies, right? Is that there's robots attacking us. They are superhuman robots and they are surpassing humankind. That is not the case. That is not the case. An AI is even not as smart as a baby, I'd say, because a baby can learn English and Chinese and can open doors and can do math and so forth. An algorithm or an AI is narrow. It must be trained over and over again for different domains. So an AI can speak English or Chinese. It can speak Chinese or do math or do image recognition. So every algorithm you have must be trained again for every like little task it needs to do.
Thank you. So maybe Albert, what do you think? How much AI already exists? Do you have examples?
I believe we have to differentiate really in a good way what is AI. So AI is not new. AI has been there already 60 years, like or more. AI is now possible because of computational power and because of data, and it's growing actually and it's doing the task good. But you need to basically have a good difference between statistical analysis, which is basically analyzing historical data and automating the usual job that a human can't do, but you need a lot of people sitting in this room analyzing a lot of data. And the next level is predictions, and that's where the interesting stuff comes in, because even if you can automate the usual tasks, redundant tasks that we do as humans, keeping a lot of people, a lot of resources, and spending a lot of money, predictions is a new layer, which is the actual point of interest. So AI works, AI is now there. I would agree that it's doing specific tasks, especially, and there's a lot of applications of AI. You can do supervised learning, you can do unsupervised learning. Supervised learning, when you know the result, it's working much better and it's much predictable than unsupervised learning, because basically you give a lot of freedom to the AI application itself. But it's a very complex domain, and it's already growing. It has grown that much, so you need to be a really good specialist in every single domain. The biggest application for AI, and especially interesting for corporates, is know your customer cases. And basically that's where emotional intelligence comes in, about sentiment analysis. And already companies like Facebook, Booking.com, and some German companies like Zalando are using sentiment analysis to properly influence their audience and sell you the products that you would more likely acquire. basically it's triggering emotions, and that's one of the most interesting cases for retailers, e-commerce platforms, and so on and so forth. And that's where the real emotional intelligence jumps in.
I would also say the type of technology that you use, it decides if it's AI or big data
Yes.
analytics. So if you use convolutional networks, for example, that's a clear AI technology where that turns around a little bit what computer science was, which was initially something that where we create our own problems, so to say, and suddenly we have something that is reacting or not, that no one kind of knows what happens within it because it's so complex, it has that many variables, you kind of know a little bit the math behind it, you don't know how it reacts. So you feed it with data and you're surprised by yourself sometimes what comes out. It's a good example with the horses because it's kind of an interesting way for me that it creatively used a different approach to solve a task, which is horse detection. But it wasn't doing it what you were expecting, which is using the image, but it was suddenly reading something out on the right side. So it's problem solving by itself in a way also.
So basically, in neural networks, you have a lot of input layers and you have output layers. And what happens in between, still we as even specialists, or like we do it like for 10 years or so, we don't understand because it's usually like very complex structure of procedure of feature extraction, and then you get matrix, and it's literally like in a movie of matrix. You have a lot of numbers and so on and so forth and functions. It's different layers, and the human itself cannot understand. So in that case, I would say AI is still unpredictable because we still don't know what's happening in between. So the initial model can have really not expected outcomes.
Exactly, yeah. Depending on the data.
And the difference between computer science is that your source code defines the outcome. Here, the data defines the model.
Yeah.
So model is just a tool, but the data and the outcome are completely unpredictable.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of AI.
Yeah, actually, it's interesting because you work in a different way now. You actually sit there and measure things in the end. You kind of feed data in, and then you look what's happening, and writing down, and you do that with different data, and then you're like writing your own curve and trying to understand what's happening depending on if I'm changing the data, what's the outcome. So suddenly it's like a tool, like you said, a black box, something's happening, and I'm trying to understand myself with real scientific methods, trying to understand what this box is doing.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
But that is exactly how do we stay in control? That's what you said. We need to stay in the lead and stay in control. But if you don't know what the outcome is, and if you cannot say if it's right or wrong, how do we stay in control? That's also what you said. How do we make it in future? We have to prove it's right or wrong, but we can't. I understand now.
And actually, I think this is really a very huge challenge for us to maintain this competent approach towards where and how do we use AI. And so there is one keyword I would like to mention, and we call it explainable AI. And actually, that's the focus of my research group. So it's still a very open problem in many cases because, yeah, the neural networks essentially, they are those black boxes, right? You have an input and you create an output, but you don't really know how the neural network comes to this output. Now, how can you really address and get an understanding why that output was produced? And well, there is one thing, you have to identify technologies that do this task. And there are technologies around. So you can, for instance, you can have additional models that are more easily understandable, so that you can at least do a plausibility check that in general the model works correctly. You can also find methods that track for a concrete output that track how the neural network in this case came to that result, so that you can get an understanding where in specific examples the neural network comes to a certain result. But those are the technologies. They are currently developed also. It's an open ongoing research. It's a research area really at universities, and I think there has to be done really very much, because ultimately if we as a society want to competently use AI, then we need those methods in so many applications. It starts with our day-to-day lives, like with the driving app. Of course, we should understand how Google does its navigation and why we come to a certain route that gives us more confidence and feels more comfortable. But when we talk about medical diagnosis, obviously that really gets crucial. I mean, most of us would like to understand if we use a neural network that makes predictions about whether an image contains results about cancer or not, then we would like to understand how this algorithm comes to that conclusion, right? So it really gets crucial because it affects us personally. And for those things, we need explainable AI, so we need additional methods that make understandable how the algorithms come to a certain conclusion.
But I would disagree, because like one thing is something we need to control it, and like we need to control something which is being implemented in the actual industries or it goes to consumers. But why we are scientists? Because we experiment, and like imagine when the chemical algorithms were enabled, yeah, they didn't know the outcome, and the people are curious. That's why we appeared on the moon. That's why like we dream to go to Mars, because we don't know the outcome. But that's within our nature. If we stop the progress, then we're no better than other species on this planet, and we'll just die out like dinosaurs. But what we need to do, we need to have controlled sandbox, where in a controlled sandbox we do experiments. So we really understand all the implications, we understand the outcomes of the AI, but it's a long process. We're just in the beginning when the chemistry was being done in the human universe, or we were creating the engines to fly to the moon or rockets, so nobody knew what, but we are super curious species and we need to go that way. We need to have a control environment where we test it and we implement in the industries only things that we are for sure. But just controlling or regulating or stopping it just because we don't know the outcome, that's going against the human nature.
I don't see a contradiction.
And that's why
between-
we're scientists, so we need to experiment.
I don't see a contradiction between identifying how to understand AI and making progress. So for me, this is not a contradiction. So that's
Maybe we go a little bit further. So do we have cases where we already use AI?
Yes,
Can you explain?
like within Fujitsu, we have cases like with Siemens. We had one project, for example, where they were using for Windräder.
Wind turbines.
Wind
turbines.
For the qualitative analysis of these
Blades.
rotors, blades. Thank you. They were using scans, and basically you had the person looking at the scans to understand if there is a break in the structure that might cause issues later on, and they replaced that and with image recognition algorithms to automatically detect that, for example. Or I just worked with a startup, a medical startup, who's trying to create a recommendation system for doctors for a case of, it's called DOAC. It's a specific group of medication that thins your blood. And it's very hard to measure actually in hospitals, which is a problem because when you have a person that doesn't stop the DOAC medication just before surgery, this person might bleed when you cut when you open the person. So you need to find a good point in time to stop the medication, because if it's too early, they might get a stroke. So it's a trade-off between don't bleed in the surgery and please don't get a stroke just before. And especially young doctors in hospitals are overwhelmed with finding the right spot in time for the patients, and they're trying to collect the data on many other experiences of patients, so that they can learn from that and make kind of recommendation for them.
One of the practical use cases that we develop and we implement now in the United States is ambient assisted living. Like in hospitals, usually you have old people who have a high potential of falling, and when they fall, even if you are like, for example, 75, if you fall when you break something, even if the doctors cure you, most probably within 8 or 9 years you'll die, because there's some crucial structure is damaged in your body, and because under high stress you can't. So, and it's literally impossible to control all people in the hospitals from falling. So the only way that it can be done is an early detection system, because it's very expensive to keep all the nurses in every single room and do the surveillance of 24/7, because people are people. The nurse can just sleep, yeah? And one of the cases that we now implement is putting the ambient assisted living systems in on the cameras, where you understand the movement of the people. So when they try to wake up from their bed, and the human body has a tilt, yeah? When the kids start to walk, it's usually the tilt from one leg to another leg. And when you have the balance of your body, then that's where people start walking like we were. But the old people, then when they get old, they become like kids. So the tilt and the weight of their body is changing. So we try to identify when the tilt and the motion of their body is changing in order to send alerts to the nurses. And actually it started showing really good results, because you can save lives within the long term. Yeah? And if you can save these old people, why not?
Sure. So maybe Wolfgang, for you the question. So we do already a lot in the field of medicine, actually, but cases or studies say that people do not want to have decisions from a machine. They still want the human beings there. What do you think? What do we need to change in society that people or the society really accept the decision made by AI machine?
Let's pick up that example from Ariane again on cancer detection. And let's say that an algorithm is better in diagnosis of different sorts of cancer than a human doctor. And that's the case already now. At the Charité Hospital in Berlin, for instance, they use algorithms to detect cancer. And for some forms of cancer, you have now collaboration between man and machine for 100% accurate detection of cancer, breast cancer, for instance. The algorithm has an error rate of perhaps 5%, the human doctor of 2.5%, but together, as a collaboration, they have an accurate diagnosis of 99.5%. And then, if an algorithm saves lives, your life specifically, then people will accept it. And no matter if we understand how the system works exactly behind the doors, but if we know that it works in the end, then it will be accepted by the people. Of course, if it doesn't work, someone must be liable for it. And there should be a human intervention between the machine and the decision, i.e. the doctor in this case, because also machines make mistakes, obviously. If there is an image and a human would at first glance see, okay, something's weird here, it must be broken. The machine wouldn't detect that at first glance at least. So there must be the collaboration between man and machine, and we have in the GDPR, in the General Directive on Data Protection of the European Union, a right for everyone to challenge any decision made by a machine alone. And I think that's a good right because it creates also legitimation and acceptance for algorithms and algorithm decision making.
Very good.
So it needs time for people to get used to it, to learn and to trust the technology. And in this time, in this very first phase, it needs visualization. So take cars, self-driving cars, just show people where the sensors are, what it's seeing in the cockpit. And then people will, step by step, trust the technology.
And also learn what an AI can do and what it cannot do.
Yeah.
Right? So as a doctor, if he or she uses AI systems for making her decisions better, then she must be able to know what system she can trust and how to cope with the results of the system and maybe improve or correct it.
And I guess it's so important to really establish the right level of trust, right?
Yeah.
So to understand
That's
when
what
to trust it and when not to trust it.
That's it.
So do you think it's also a good point because nowadays, for example, in China, it's coming up that they are teaching actually AI at schools, so the little kids. What is your opinion on it? Maybe Albert, what do you think? Is it good that then people get to know it in a young age actually and can trust it better then?
I could bring a parallel to the cybersecurity because AI is a bit more new application timeline. Cybersecurity is already there like for 20-25 years, and everybody is afraid about losing data, his data being privacy. But most of the times that you lose the data is because yourself. You write down your password on the table and so on and so forth. So in cybersecurity, there's a nice trend which is called social engineering, which is basically people just give out their data for free because they don't know how to protect themselves. And within the AI, the same. You won't be afraid of something that you know. Like we were afraid of the thunder maybe 3,000 years ago. Yes, AI is new, but everything in this life was new and throughout the history. It needs a lot of people like us who will teach the AI, who will control it, who will make sandbox environment, and in the end, make nice tools that would prove people about decision making. But at the end, people should do the decision. But the more you are educated, the better. And I believe in China, just because of political structure or whatever, it's kind of it's coming more top to bottom. I don't believe in the top to bottom approach, but we as humans would like to learn more and understand more in order not to be afraid of it.
Okay, yeah, very good, thank you. Maybe Ariane, for you, what do you think, how can AI and the human beings really collaborate together? What do you think, what is the next step? what do we have to do?
For me, this is currently maybe the most promising approach to see we have a combination of the artificial and the human intelligence. It's also what you mentioned earlier, so that it's not just about having either the AI or the human, but I think that really combining both is currently the most promising way, in my opinion, and not, on the one hand, because then, of course, we have that better feeling that we have a better understanding, but also because I think that the both combined are really more than just one part of it. Because the AI can produce a result, can create suggestions, but ultimately it's still the human who uses his more creative, more broad intelligence that can accept or influence or somehow define when to trust the AI and when not, and maybe can also, based on an AI result, further explore so what alternatives are there and so on. So I see AI, I would like to call this a digital companion for the human. That's, in my view, currently in many areas the most promising way.
Yeah. Julie, do you have an opinion on that? How to collaborate together?
So when they started to create AI, like when Google started to improve Google Images, they were using the data from many people. So they kind of were in this phase where they created a game that people tagged images and tried to gather the data to train their AI sets. So this kind of I see the collaboration rather in the progress of creating an AI algorithm. Once you have this black box that can recognize images, I think it becomes a tool for us again, like a hammer, which I combine to solve other new tasks, and it becomes a wonderful thing to be also creative with it and think about the next challenge. So.
And do you think it's just a male sort actually? Because we have a lot of programmers there, for example.
It was?
A male sort of AI, so because we a lot of men program, so do you think as a woman, it's just a male sort kind of? Or is it a mixture of sorts of people?
Actually, 20% of our scientists are women in our company, so.
I think it's all
Sorry, how many?
20%. It's growing.
So this is.
Can I ask a question on intelligence? If I think of my children, my youngest daughter has a hobby. She gets cat food once she sees our cat. That I think is kind of reactive intelligence. Casimir, food, give it to him. She's 1 year old. I think that is something in a way, what you were talking about, in a way of artificial intelligence as a form of reactive statistical analysis. I ate cat food, cat happy, wonderful. That would be something like statistics. But for example, I think what really is creative intelligence, what I'm missing in this is creating something new. For example, art. Let's say art is not happening in statistical analysis. If you get Picasso, he made weird faces. No AI algorithm would ever make weird faces because it hasn't happened in the statistical data you feed in. If we had AI on art, we will be stuck in 15th century.
Actually, there
That's
was
paintings.
only very recently this artist who, this data scientist who let AI create an image based on a number of examples of images from a certain period of time, and that was sold in an auction. I don't know.
$10,000
But there, I think what I'm really missing is this spark of creativity, like the way you say, I think AI, as we're talking of that now, is never going to create a genius moment.
But the idea to create a genius moment is just a tool for us, which automates the task. Like it belongs to us. So if we make AI equal, then things could go worse. But AI is just another tool, which is actually very powerful. So think about it.
Not criticizing me.
AI
but
is
it's a
actually
reactive thing depending on what we feed in.
Currently,
Not exactly. So there are new approaches like generative adversarial networks where you have two CNNs, two neural networks. The first one is generating images from the basis of probably famous people pictures. And the second one is an evaluator. He gets either real images of people or he gets the image that's generated. So in the beginning, he directly detects that this is a generated image. And at some point, he cannot distinguish that anymore. And this data, the images that you see, those people never existed. And you have real pictures that this generated GAN, the generated virtual network, created. So it can be creative, maybe not like creating something like Albert Einstein. His theory became first proved after 100 years. This kind of creativity, probably not. But it's creating something that never existed before.
But I think that is then to the point of emotion. I think especially in art, you expect some emotion into it. How can an AI do it? It can't. And that is probably then the difference between a human has done it and this, what you said, the genius moment.
It's not interruptive.
It comes out of the emotion probably. And that would be the question. Can we see it or can't? How can we control if someone has the emotion into this art?
I might be able to elaborate on that a bit because I just happened to visit yesterday together with the Minister of Justice, Katarina Barley, atelier of Roman Lipski. He's a famous painter. And a few years ago, we started with a data scientist he met by chance to create an artificial muse, which he calls it, abbreviated AIR, AIR, like artificial intelligence Roman, like after his name, a bit presumptuous perhaps, but artists, you know. And he uses this artificial muse not to create new art, but to get new inspirations for his own art. So there's also artists around who program an algorithm, and the algorithm draws something or paints something or just creates something out of the blue in terms of a digital copy or something. But he uses that to feed his own images to the algorithm, and then the algorithm would have also sort of image recognition, like for instance detect the brush strokes and the colors and the structure, etc., and then create new images, and those images are used again by Roman Lipski as inspiration to create new art himself. And he says, oh, that changed me. Why? First of all, I need now to interact with people. I'm an artist for a reason, because I don't interact usually with people. I draw my stuff. Now I need to interact with my data scientists, with other members from my team, so I get more social by AI. Surprising for me. I like people now. And second, I used to be a figurative painter, figürlich. And now I start to become more and more an abstract painter. I even use spray now, instead of just my brushes, to do my paintings. And that's quite interesting also what art, or like what artificial intelligence can do to how we do art.
But it really stays a tool.
It stays a tool, and he says it's only a tool.
And it was always a tool before that too. You have painters who just took a cup of paint and just threw it onto a canvas, and people were just standing in front of it like, okay, so I could have done the same thing when he said, yeah.
But you didn't have the emotion, that's why you didn't do it.
But yeah, exactly. Yeah, but I'm not sure that you always see the emotion that people express in the art, and it's also the why you buy it is probably what it affects in your type of emotion. So if you see it evolutionary, you can take thousands or millions of images that you generate and then see which one of those will probably have this effect on you and will be sold for 10,000 euro. And the same thing is what happens in humanity. There are many artists we don't know, and we try it.
Okay, maybe to sum it up now, what do you think actually how our lives will actually be in like 10 or 20 years with AI? What is your imagination of it? So Albert, do you have an opinion on it? What would you wish maybe also in the future?
AI will evolve, but because it's all about human factor, people could use it for bad or people could use it for good. I speak to people sometimes just for cutting costs. They want to eliminate all the middle decision-making layers, and they say it's not going to happen. But I speak to people who want to solve the redundant job of their own employees. This is for good. So it all belongs to people. You can launch a nuclear weapon tomorrow on China and get back a response, or you could not. But it's a technology that evolves and evolves hard, and a lot of investment is going on. And I believe Europe should be pushing really hard to not to lose the competition, because however, at least you should be on the line, because anyway people will use it.
Yeah. Ariane, do you want to add